Hello Britain, it's your old pal John Oliver, here to break down the latest political drama unfolding across the pond. This time it's about Keir Starmer and his Labour government's daring, or as some might say, dastardly, welfare reforms. Picture this. A government trying to fix a leaky roof while juggling chainsaws. That's the Labour Party right now, trying to balance fiscal responsibility with their commitment to social safety nets. It's a tightrope walk, folks, and one wrong step could send the whole thing tumbling down. Now, we all know the UK's welfare system has been in dire need of an overhaul for years. It's like trying to navigate a labyrinth designed by a committee of Kafka and a bunch of pigeons, confusing, inefficient and frankly a bit crap. Labour knows this and they've promised to make things better. But as with any good political drama, there's a twist. Labour's solution, a hefty dose of austerity, served with a side of tough love. They're talking about cutting billions from the welfare budget, a move that has sent shockwaves through the country and left many wondering if this is the same Labour Party that once championed the rights of the working class. The government argues these cuts are necessary to balance the books and ensure the long-term sustainability of the welfare system. They say they're targeting inefficiencies and focusing on helping those most in need. But critics argue that these cuts will disproportionately impact the most vulnerable in society, pushing them further into poverty and hardship. So what exactly are these controversial cuts? Well, buckle up because we're about to dive into the nitty-gritty. One of the biggest changes is the scrapping of the Work Capability Assessment, or WCA, which is used to determine eligibility for sickness and disability benefits. This test has been widely criticised for being inaccurate and stressful for claimants. Instead, the government plans to use the Personal Independence Payment, or PIP, assessment to determine eligibility for these benefits. Now, on the surface, this might seem like a good thing. After all, who wants a complicated, stressful assessment? But here's the catch. The PIP assessment itself has been plagued with problems, with many people finding it difficult to navigate and often being denied benefits they're entitled to. Another major change is the reduction in top-up payments for those receiving universal credit. These top-ups are designed to help people with disabilities and health conditions cover the additional costs they face. But under the new proposals, these top-ups will be frozen and then halved for new claimants. This means that people with disabilities will be hit with a double whammy, a more difficult assessment process and less financial support. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. The government has also announced a modest increase in the standard universal credit allowance, but critics argue that this increase is simply not enough to offset the impact of the other cuts, especially with the cost of living skyrocketing faster than a SpaceX rocket. The Labour government argues that these reforms are essential to address the UK's dire economic situation. The country is facing a mountain of debt, inflation is soaring, and the economy is stuck in a rut. They say that these cuts are necessary to balance the books and avoid a full-blown economic crisis, but critics argue that these cuts are not only cruel, but also counterproductive. They point out that cutting benefits will reduce spending in the economy, potentially leading to job losses and further economic stagnation. They also argue that these cuts will disproportionately impact the poorest and most vulnerable in society, exacerbating inequality and social unrest. Politically, these reforms have created a hornet's nest for the Labour Party. The party's left wing is furious, accusing Starmer of betraying Labour's core values and abandoning the working class. They argue that these cuts are a betrayal of everything Labour stands for and will alienate the party's base. On the other hand, some moderate Labour MPs have cautiously welcomed the reforms, arguing that they are necessary to restore fiscal responsibility and demonstrate that Labour is a party of government. They argue that the party needs to be seen as fiscally responsible if it wants to win back the trust of voters who abandoned them in recent elections. So what does the future hold for these controversial reforms? Well, it's still too early to say for sure. The government is facing significant opposition from within its own ranks as well as from charities and campaign groups. The coming weeks and months will be crucial as the government tries to steer these reforms through Parliament and quell the growing public anger. One thing is for sure, these reforms will have a profound impact on the lives of millions of people across the UK. Whether these changes will ultimately be for the better or worse remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, the debate over welfare reform in the UK is far from over. And there you have it, folks. The UK's welfare system is undergoing a radical transformation, and only time will tell what the ultimate consequences will be. Stay tuned, because this is one political drama you won't want to miss.